What's going on, YouTube? This is your Melanated Warrior, Haywood Haynes, and this is another installment of Facts Over Feelings. Leave your feelings at the door so we can get to the facts. And I want to preface this video with a concern. I am going to be getting off. This is going to be a bomb. This is going to be that Hiroshima Nagasaki shit, straight up. And, last time I dropped some of that alchemical science, which was a 4 or 5 part series that had to do with all religion is false. Those who really rock with me, they checked it out. In order for there to encourage it, in order for a paradigm shift to happen, this must mean something to you. And I put in a lot of work when I do videos like this. I think that there's been a lot of things that, that happen, and a lot of things happen to all of us to make us feel underappreciated. I don't get paid for this as much. There have been people to show their appreciation, and my heart, my shots, I send shots out to them because I'm definitely grateful. But this right here, if this doesn't move you, if this doesn't fuel your desire to want to know more and do more, I don't know what will. These are one of those things that really, makes it hard for me to want to continue to keep doing this if this is not appreciated. But I guarantee you, if this doesn't shake you to the core, I don't know what will. I really don't. Now, we're going to get off into it. One of the things I want to kind of discuss 3 hot topics. All 3 things went viral, and understandably so. But instead of using this as an opportunity to galvanize our energy, a lot of people use this as an opportunity to be divisive. And I remember this, running across this one channel that popped on my, on my YouTube feed, and the thing that was real, crazy to me was that, this individual, she was also championing herself as being pro-black, and yet the title that was, the heading of her video was "Black Men Can't Wait to Be White Men," and that was disturbing to me, because first of all, here we go again, overgeneralizing, black men, and like we all rock like that. And if you anybody who knows when that went viral about Hubert Davis, the guy who was recently hired as the coach of North Carolina, it was black men and black women that were infuriated, that felt some type of way about that. So once again, instead of using an opportunity, as a teaching moment and an opportunity to come together, you had they can't wait till they get white women and stuff. Yes, some of them do. A lot of them, obviously from West, but you're using examples from Hollywood and the Matrix, and you're imposing that on us, and that's just unfair. You see what I'm saying? And then this is the reason why it's unfair, is because we all want to totally ignore it. We want to be totally ignorant of the system and how it operates. And nobody explained that, with great clarity, other than Frantz Fanon in his book Black Skin, White Mask, analyzing all the dynamics involved between black men, white women, black women, etc. The black man, the white man, just a phenomenal book. You understand, and articulating it as a system, because one thing that we have to understand about that process, like I told her before, like I mentioned in the latter half of my comment, I said that, our women need to start, taking or putting a lot of emphasis on intimately connecting themselves with the education process. And all of a sudden, because she was presumptuous and she was emotional, she assumed that I was talking about single women. She said, "Oh, well, single women, we try to do the best that we could do. Where are the men? They should be held culpable. Well, they leave and they abandon." I said, "Look, I never said single women. I said, see, this is the thing. If you can't understand what you have read, you cannot read." I said women. So you telling me single women and married women don't drop their kids off to the same institution? This is a system we're battling. And this is why this is so important to understand, that we need to, even black men have fell victim to this saying, "Oh, the Blanco man." Who you think brings the Blanco man into this realm? Who you think educates him? It's the Blanco woman. She is spearheading this energy. That's why I said black women need to be involved. When you put up images and paintings and you indoctrinate your kids. It's not even indoctrination. You're just letting them know that these are the core concepts that need to be a part of your thinking. That black is beautiful. And everywhere they go in their house, they see a reflection of that. That's a lot of times it's not about, having one-on-ones. If everything that you see around you is beautifully black, that goes a long way. Because if the man is actually, doing his job, which is, providing security and putting food on the table, he more than likely doesn't have a lot of time to educate his children. in the perennial stages of their development. That may be and fall on the responsibility of the woman. So don't always assume that I'm talking about single women when I say that. Because like I said, married women and single women drop their kids off to the same institutions. Now, you know, I said that to say this. With the second one, a lot of you may be familiar with what also went viral with the black kids, the black children in that daycare having to wait while the white children had to ate first. Now, they say it had nothing to do with race, but, you know, they never showed the whole video, and then eventually that daycare closed down. And they talked about, we'll use this as a learning experience. No, this is what we have to understand. Their schools are not intended to make us intelligent. Their sole purpose is to let you know what your role is. That's why this is so harmful. So 15, 16, 17 years later, then we wake up to it. We see our children where, you know, they seem like foreigners to us. All because we didn't understand the process. You see? And so these are the things that we have to acquaint ourselves with. Now, I'm going to show a video. And I don't know if you guys had seen this video. Like I said, 1976 Copyright Act, Section 107. This is for, you know, allowances made for fair use, for commentary, criticism, scholarship, news reporting, education. But here at the FOF Squad, you know, overall for waking your ass up. Let's get it.
You're looking at extraordinary video. The desperate effort to get inside a daycare center. Behind the locked door painted with Big Bird is a 1-year-old baby girl. Somehow she has been left alone after closing. Her desperate father, who had come to pick her up, is recording the whole thing. And this is the moment firefighters and police pry open the door. With a flashlight, they spot little Journey Jones crawling in pitch black darkness, crying but okay. You can hear an officer comfort the whimpering little girl.
Oh, baby.
And then you hear authorities search the daycare center.
Sir, look around, make sure nobody's been here or anything.
I can't imagine what it's like as a father to be at this place, hear your baby crying behind the door. You must have freaked out.
I'm pacing back and forth. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. I got so many emotions going through my head at once, and I'm like, how did they leave a baby here?
Journey is just fine today. Here she is with her mother, Quenisha. Mom is still upset about what happened.
When I saw the video her dad recorded, it broke my heart even more.
The drama unfolded at the All Things Are Possible for Kids daycare center in Chicago. Mom stayed home from work today to take care of Journey, who is safe and sound after a nightmarish ordeal.
See what I'm saying? Even if it's ran by the Blancos or it's ran by Oreos, individuals with, white on the inside and black on the outside, still have no respect for our children. Still not concerned about any of our children's safety. So a lot of times, that's what I'm saying. In that situation where, you had our children eating last, that's the least of what can happen many times to our children. In the dark, they claim that she looked like a little doll. We know 1-year-olds remain active all the way until they damn near sleep. You see, and yet left her alone. And they lucky that that's all that happened. But see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You see, the other thing that kind of got to me too, obviously rest in power to DMX, passed away. And it was someone who made a comment, under one of his videos, and they were talking about why are we heralding and why are we, commemorating this individual when, he had said that he had died over a drug overdose. And a lot of us who know about what happened to him, and then we don't want to go down that rabbit hole because, we don't want to be labeled as conspiracy theorists, but we do know that he had got the jab the week before. But we digress. The fact of the matter is like what I, relayed to her was that how insensitive are you? The reason being is because we don't have no room to be judgmental. Why? Because this is the thing. It shows you how much control the Blanco has over our mentality. And remember what I talked talked about, or was said by that African philosopher who stated that the first one to the mind is the winner. And we notice that the Blanco has, whatever he deems, or whatever they deem, rather, because it's a system, let me not say that. Whatever they deem to be good, or whatever they deem to be bad, is what they deem to be good and deem to be bad, right? And we embrace that wholeheartedly without any question. So the fact of the matter is that when we take a look at his drugs, now, look at one drug, alcohol, cigarettes, he's killed millions of people. But since it's legal, we don't have anything to say about it. You see what I'm saying? Even though we say that it may be bad, but it's not going to tarnish an individual's legacy, but it leads you to the same eventuality, death. You see, and then you got to think about it. The number one metabolic illness known to man is diabetes, right? And remember, type 2 diabetes, because type 1 is rare. That means you're born with it. Over 95 to 97% of cases of of diabetes, of the diabetic population, is type 2. Now think about it. He names it high fructose corn syrup and sugar. And, that's the layman terms. But in his lab, these are 12, 15-letter words. Now, any Blanco scientists, which really don't exist, will tell you that the same centers of the brain are activated with cocaine as there is with sugar. It's a drug. Yet, can you stop eating the junk food? Can you go without candy for the rest of your life? You see what I'm saying? So we got to prevent ourselves from being judgmental and understand that just because he made it legal, don't make it right. You see, so that was one of the things that I wanted to get to. And then, what we're going to do is we're going to juxtapose two videos against one another. And we're going to show you the differences. You see, and we're going to get right into it because this is deep. Like I said, 1976 Copyright Act, Section 107. All right, let's get to it.
Explain to me why I couldn't buy that.
Animal pride for the race, brother. White pride, royal pride. Domestic terrorist, that'd be a shame. You're a white boy carrying that street.
This right here is the biggest hoax there ever was.
It's just the next thing to accident.
It is.
The only lie about this video is this is every town in America. All right? Now, let's take a look at another video. Give me 1 second.
Catch.
New normal after losing her hands and legs because of all things a dog lick. Marie Traynor woke up from a 10-day coma to find her limbs had been amputated.
I cried. I cried the hardest I ever cried in my life.
The life-changing tragedy had its origins during a vacation in the Caribbean with her husband. Marie says she was using her key card to access her hotel when she accidentally nicked herself on her wrist. It was a tiny little scratch, a silly accident. It hardly hurt. When Marie came home, her dog Taylor greeted her with lots of kisses. But the dog also licked Marie's scratch. 4 days later, Marie got very sick and was rushed to the hospital with a severe infection and septic shock.
Her arms were turning black all the way up just below her shoulders.
It turns out that her dog's saliva carried a bacteria called capnocytophaga. It's quite common in dogs, but what happened to Marie is a very rare occurrence.
It is a 1 in over a million. I mean, the chance is so rare. You would never think that a dog lick would cause someone to lose their hands and legs.
Orthopedic surgeon Dr. A.J. Sath at Altman Hospital in Canton, Ohio, says the choice was stark. Amputate or Marie would die.
I kind of wish that they would have let me go. Because I can't live like this. What am I going to do? How am I going to do everything? I can't do nothing for myself right now.
Her husband Matthew is doing his best to lift her spirits.
I love her to death. She's everything to me.
He never leaves her side, helping her with everything from brushing her teeth to styling her hair, which isn't easy because Marie is a beautician.
He's not a hairdresser.
Dr. Seth is working on building custom prosthetics for Marie so she can try to regain some independence.
Good?
It's perfect.
She's staying positive with the help of her son and daughter.
How you feeling? Good. She's an inspiration. She's so strong.
You're probably wondering what happened to the dog.
Hi. How are you?
Well, despite losing her limbs to a dog lick, Marie says she'll never stop loving her German Shepherd, Taylor.
Here at the FOS squad, we're not wondering what happened to the damn dog. We know these Blancos love these damn dogs. They'd take a dog deaf, dumb, and blind. The dog could be deaf, blind. It could have 1 leg, 2 legs, 3 legs. They trying to say that mutt. You see what I'm saying? Now you got to think about that. Now think about the previous video that you had just seen. You had Blancos trying to justify why you're looking for or searching for, or won't you provide justification why you should even be alive, why your life should even matter. Yet they let a dog force them to lose limbs. And then this is the thing. She wasn't even afraid to kiss the dog on the mouth after that. I would have been afraid to touch the dog. I lose my arms and legs. This is what you're dealing with. If we in the same boat, we on the damn Titanic, because we all gonna sink with that shit. This logic gonna lead us to hit an iceberg. Now see, even shouts out to Albert 432. When he had, he was talking about, he was alluding to something that I had brought out in one of my other videos when I was talking about how, the other form of the Blancos, the Asians, they sit up there, whatever that they take part, these rituals that they take part in when they're consuming us because they're harvesting us. You see what I'm saying? And then the news report had stated that human penises on a cargo ship from Nigeria, over 7,000 black human penises. Okay? And this is the thing, like we said, like I told you before, you sisters, when you have a son, they snip that foreskin. That foreskin sells for between $100 to $150,000, and they put that in Blanco women's makeup to help them stay young. And we all the same. You can't. Who got an argument against me? We all the same though, but we being harvested. I don't see them chopping off Blanco men penises. I don't see them needing extra pinkies. Look, let me tell you something, man. Let me tell you something. We're going to read a couple articles just to put this stuff into perspective. Now, just to let you know who you're around. I don't know if you can see this. What it says, I'm going to read it for you. 80 freshwater fish species have gone extinct. 16 in 2020 alone. Alright? Now, why is that so? Let's read. It's another article by Reuters. What does it say? All eyes on Tokyo, says Beijing, as Japan reportedly plans to sign off on dumping nuclear wastewater into the sea. This is what you're dealing with. That's why I told you. What are you willing to sacrifice or give up for a check? Him to continue to keep destroying this realm? For him to keep manipulating you, saying that you're in the same boat as him? Okay? Because it's going to get to a head. And I'm going to show you how. I don't know whether or not you've been aware of what's happening along in the Caribbean, right? Now, this is from Reuters too as well. It's an article that just came out not too long ago. And what does it say? Only the vaccinated will be saved. Confusion after St. Vincent PM says only those with COVID jab can flee volcano on cruise ships. That's the ultimatum that's being provided. You want to get on these cruise ships and save your life? Take the jab. Let's read. As a volcanic eruption cast a pall of ash over the Caribbean island of St. Vincent, tens of thousands fled. But eyebrows were raised after the island's nation's prime minister said they weren't going anywhere without a COVID shot. You know this is going to take place. So this is the, come on, man. See, that's why you got to start taking this stuff seriously. You know, you're not, and I'm trying to, everybody like says that, you know, I'm dividing, you know, I'm about that division too. Nah, I'm just letting you know that you're not in the same boat. We're being harvested. Ain't no ifs, ands, and buts about it. You see what I'm saying? So, look, you know, if you don't start taking this serious, trust me, you will get swept up in it. You'll get swept up in it. Now, what I'm going to do is, and like I said, what I'm providing y'all with, man, is arcane information. How do I know? Look, this is a book that you definitely have to have in your library. What is The Rise of Yeast? How the Sugar Fungus Shaped Civilization. Now, Nicholas P. Money, right? Now, we already know that that's probably a pseudonym because, you know, they don't like to get their real names up. You know, but they're letting out this information. Now, what did we talk about before? Remember I was saying that, you know, we had showed a segment with Professor Delgado in the 60s, how they were remote controlling the bull's brain to prevent it from charging, you know, modifying its behavior. And now they said that we have non-invasive forms of technology where we modify the behavior of mental patients. And they were doing that in the Soviet Union, right, with radio frequencies. Okay? Now, is that in your textbook? I'm an 80s baby. We wasn't learning that in school. I didn't learn that in college. Okay? So the thing is, if you're not going to get the right intel from his schools, why are we there in the first place? What you have to understand is he had placed a vampire, a living entity, already inside of you, leeching off of you. We're going to read. And this is the chemist talking, right? Anton von Leeuwenhoek examined them in drops of beer in 1680, although he did not consider that these tiny globules were alive. See, they didn't even know it was alive, supposedly, at the time, and what they tell us. Okay, so remember how the science always changes. They're wrong 99.9% of the time because there's no such thing as the Blanco scientist. Now, read this to you. The allure of alcohol is undeniable. If yeast had never evolved, we would have been forced to invent it. Wine and beer change our perception of the moment, can make us glory in life, and can be our downfall when absorbed too freely. Alcohol can help us slide from heaven to hell and vice versa. It bathes the central nervous system, acting both as a powerful stimulant and depressant, which explains the effects of different doses ranging from mild euphoria to death. Its legality allows us to overlook the true nature of this yeast product as a potent psychoactive drug. Okay, remember I told you before, when he makes it legal, you're overlooking the fact that this is an organism that is invading you, that feeds off of glucose. Glucose is what your body breaks, is a sugar component that you break every other sugar down to. It's the only sugar that the blood runs off of. And it just happens to be the sugar that yeast feeds off of. To appreciate the power of yeast, we must define what it produces. Alcohol is one thing and many things. It refers to ethyl alcohol or ethanol and to members of the class of chemicals with a similar structure. Chemicals ending in OL, which signifies the presence of a hydroxyl group, are alcohols. Here, however, alcohol will be used in the colloquial sense to refer to ethanol. So you have to understand, everything in OL is an alcohol. So menthol cigarettes, that's an alcohol. This man literally puts alcohol in your cigarettes, and yeast feed off it because yeast can actually consume alcohol, even though it poops it out. Okay? And then that's how it destroys other yeast that competes with it, by secreting alcohol. And you wonder why these drunks can go through, if you drink, you can go through a pack or two by drinking, because the yeast will consume the alcohol in the cigarettes that you smoke. Man, where have you heard this before? Let me know if any YouTuber has informed, because ain't nobody no alchemist that you dealing with. Let's read. And I'm going to show you why you're the perfect host. Yeast uses glucose and other sugars to fuel the dynamism of its cells. Energy is harvested from these molecules by splitting them into smaller parts and stripping energized electrons from their component atoms. Stripping electrons is called oxidation. When there is enough oxygen around, yeast has the option of breaking down glucose through two sets of reactions, capturing energy along the way and leaving nothing in its wake but water and carbon dioxide. Stage 1 is called glycolysis, and stage 2 is the citric acid cycle. This process of aerobic respiration is like a controlled burn that wrings the maximum amount of energy from the available fuel. Oxygen puts yeast into overdrive, and the fungus roars along like a Ferrari. That's why, and it stays in moist areas, the lungs. It's in your mouth. It's in your nose. It's in, in your ears. It's in the groin area especially. And it lives and thrives there. Because our body stores glucose in the form of what's called glycogen. That's why these blancos tell you, oh, if you don't use it, you lose it. Why? Who are you losing it to? All the asthma, man, come on, man. When you breathe in, you're breathing for it, especially if you're feeding it. That's why I told you about the high fructose corn syrup they made. Remember, it's 50 to almost 100 times sweeter than regular sugar. And they made it in a lab. And you can't taste it. Because you're feeding this vampire and they're feeding this vampire inside of you. Without you even knowing it. But yet this is why these blancos have been telling you that high fructose corn syrup is dangerous. And you can't taste it. You're like, oh, well, I don't really taste it. And you don't even know if you are feeding a vampire that is living inside of you. This is why they call it a spirit. I want to know how many people dropping these jewels on you. Just in case you got to hear from the Blanco mouth. Things work a little differently in nature, where yeast has the potential to keep growing after a period of fermentation by devouring its own alcohol. Genetically modified yeast strains are used to produce a range of drugs, including human insulin. Why? Because they put yeast, the insulin is made out of the yeast, they put yeast in you to eat up the sugar and to compete with the other yeast. Man. Vaccines and an injectable medicine to treat eye degeneration, age-related macular degeneration. Yeast causes that. So what do? They throw another yeast inside you to compete with that yeast. The vaccine against human papillomavirus, which is a dominant cause of cervical cancer. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. Page 44, let's read. Bread was baked in homes in the Roman Republic, and most families enjoyed unleavened loaves with their meals. Dough was made from a variety of grains, including millet, rye, and barley. But wheat flour made the best bread and supported a huge market for grain imported from North Africa. Romans ate a lot of wheat mixed with milk and boiled to form porridge. But unleavened bread was a staple. The practice of home baking began to decline with the formation of the first guild of bakers, called the Collegium Pistorum, in the 2nd century BC. The importance of baking is reflected in the fact that members of this body were freedmen at a time when other tradesmen remained slaves. With the formation of the Collegium, the public ceded control of a food staple, and the government began to regulate bread prices. This was a source of considerable discontent during times of shortage, reinforcing the aphorism of the Roman poet Juvenal about panem et circenses. Citizens care little about politics as long as they have bread and circus. That's where that term comes from. Remember, the Blanco, all his inventions are weapons. And remember, he compares all his greatest inventions to what? Sliced bread. They literally created manufactured a vampire inside of you. And it feeds off glucose. Now you have what's called monosaccharides, simple sugars, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. Right? The monosaccharides, we take the most important out of the first two categories, which is monosaccharides and disaccharides. Now you have the monosaccharides are what? Glucose, fructose, and galactose. Now you have disaccharides. Disaccharides are merely just two monosaccharides put together. So sucrose is fructose and glucose together. Lactose is galactose and glucose together. And then maltose is two glucose molecules together. Okay? Now remember, it all breaks down to glucose. Because glucose comes from plant and algae. They're not plant-based beings. We are. And they have this fungus that eats on us that literally eat. Glucose is the only fuel that your blood runs out of. And that just so happens to be what the fungus eats. So you think it's just in these areas, oh, it's in your vagina areas for women and the, you know, and for men, and then, you know, the prostate and all this different stuff in your underarms and dandruff, because you know dandruff is yeast. Now they create these shampoos just to control it. And when people have an overgrowth of overgrowth of yeast, they usually have a lot of dandruff. So you know what I'm saying? This is why our women go into these hospitals and they can't get treated properly, because they don't want to let you know that you have an overgrowth of yeast all over. That's why they tell you 90% of women will have a yeast infection. Why? Because that's all you eat. That's all you consume. And then they want to sit up there and say, oh, no, you know, people are going overboard and they're over-consuming themselves and overwhelming themselves with this concept that it's all centered around yeast. Because most doctors will tell you, oh, everybody wants to say it's yeast. But this book lets you know, and you know for a fact, that all you consume is yeast. They sit up there and promote this pizza to you because most of the you know, the American diet is dairy driven. Okay? And we know that, you know, pizza is what? Yeast. And then what do they conveniently enough do? They give you that soda right along with it to fuel the yeast. Yeast will consume you. Yeast is what decomposes, helps to decompose the body. It will consume you once you are dead. It has no love for you. Man, who breaking this down to you like this? Really? Who's ever told you this before? They have literally placed a vampire inside of you that is literally sucking your blood. So when you don't move those muscles around and use that stored energy, guess who's feeding off of it? Why do you think your legs and you know, people have a hard time that, you know, you lose mobility as you get older? Who do you think's feeding on you? Remember, as you take a look at that periodic table of elements, carbon is called the king of elements. If you've ever played chess before, what do you understand? That the king, have you ever played a chess before and the king looks like the pawns? No, they equate size with importance. So if we know that carbon is the king of elements and organic chemistry is centered around carbon, why isn't it the biggest block in the periodic table of elements? If glucose is made out of carbon, don't you think that carbon would be a big block? Because they don't want to let you know who you are. I told you, how can we be in favor of his science when he's using his science against us? Wake up! I'm giving you life-changing information. People would charge you, people are literally putting up their homes and vehicles to pay for this type of information when they go to these holistic practitioners and, you know, individuals who specialize and letting them know exactly where they were going wrong. But yet they're keeping it from you. Appreciate me, because I'm here for y'all. Am I not warm for you? Who's giving you this information? I don't think y'all know who sent me. FOS Squad.